This week, Angelo chats to Janet Gaeta, creator of ABC's Good Game and creative director of the very exciting new event, Hybrid World Adelaide. Then, for something completely different, a look at parenting simulator Think of the Children. It's in beta now, but is it the best it can be? This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week we're going to jump right into something that could end up being quite a messy situation indeed. First up, Epic Games has announced a brand new gameplay mode for Fortnite, and it's available for everyone, completely free, regardless of whether you play on PC, PS4, Xbox One, or Mac. Battle Royale is a shiny new PvP mode that throws 100 players together on a massive map, combining Fortnite's iconic building skills and destructible environments, together with some intense player versus player action. There are no pay-to-play benefits or premium items that offer any sort of competitive advantage. You just grab the game, jump in, and fight for your life. Last man standing wins. If this is all sounding a little familiar, well, the team at Bluehole, developer of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, think there are more than a few similarities between their Battle Royale and the one that's popped up in Epic's latest. In fact, Bluehole, who use Epic's Unreal Engine, have released a public statement voicing the developers' displeasure over the new game, going so far as to suggest the team is considering further action. After listening to the growing feedback from our community and reviewing the gameplay for ourselves, we are concerned that Fortnite may be replicating the experience for which PUBG is known, says a spokesperson, who also takes offence that Epic references PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds in its official Fortnite promotions. It is worth noting that Brendan Green, the PlayerUnknown for whom the new game is named, previously worked as a consultant on the game that became H1Z1 King of the Kill, which is, you guessed it, another Battle Royale fight to the death experience. And speaking of Fortnite, that game made history this week by accidentally allowing cross-platform crossplay, where Xbox One and PS4 gamers all played together in harmony. Unfortunately for us, the bug was quickly squashed, with Epic blaming a configuration issue. If you're disappointed, you're not the only one. Head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, has gone on the record saying he would have liked Epic to leave it on. There's some good news on the way for Australians. It looks like, finally, we might be able to pay for our Steam purchases in Aussie dollars. It's taken years of lobbying and Valve itself has stayed pretty quiet, but change might well be on the horizon. A new update for indie game War of the Overworld refers to an email from Valve saying that the Steam pricing matrix has been updated, adding a bunch of new currencies to the list and adjusting existing prices to better reflect strength against the American dollar as well as regional purchasing power. The new list includes the Polish zloty, Argentine peso, Israeli new shekel, Kuwaiti dinar and the Qatari rial, as well as the Aussie dollar. Apparently, the changes have been approved by Valve and should be live now on the system's backend. But if you don't see anything different, maybe wait for an official launch. It can't be too far away, surely. In quick news, the wrath of Nintendo has been brought down upon one poor modder's head after the avid fan published a project that added online multiplayer to Super Mario 64. Predictably, Big N wasn't too happy about its IP being reused without permission, so Kaz Emmanuel was in the firing line. More than 20 videos of the working mod were taken down, and his Patreon account, set up to fund the mod's development, was also shuttered. Tempting fate somewhat, Kaz has also posted that just in case you think some random videos being taken down will stop anything, nah, they are entirely unrelated to development. And something a little happier for Nintendo, Shinji Mikami has revealed that he would really like to see The Evil Within 2 pop up on the new hybrid Switch console. Mikami is working as producer and supervisor on the new horror title, which is out in a few weeks, and says a handheld version of the game would be interesting. Time for some ridiculous numbers. Nier Automata has been shipped and downloaded more than 2 million times since its launch earlier this year. Publisher Square Enix has labelled the game a global hit far in excess of our expectations and hinted at the potential to further expand the franchise. Divinity Original Sin is also selling strongly, moving just less than 500,000 copies in 4 days, something it took the first Divinity game several months to achieve. Fans have reported a few issues with online play, but that's almost to be expected. Nearly 86,000 players logged in at once trying to check out Larian's old school RPG, and that's only those playing through Steam. And a slightly less surprising but no less impressive number comes from Sony, who reports Crash Bandicoot on PS4 has sold more than 2.5 million units worldwide since its launch in late June. This, of course, reinforces the fact that really all many people want is shiny new re-releases of our favourite old school games. Xbox is taking a slightly different approach to the same topic, and Master Chief fans can rejoice. Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST and Halo 4 are now all backward compatible on Xbox One, along with Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, as long as you have the original disc. And finally this week, nearly 15 years after its initial release, Zone of the Enders, the second runner, is getting a new lease on life, with Sony and Konami revealing an enhanced port set for release next year. Not only is the second runner Mars getting polished up for both PS4 and Windows PC, but it's also getting VR headset support, placing you right inside the orbital frame Jehuti.
Inner chamber pressure rising normally. Life ring has started revolving. Ready to fire.
Still no word on that long-promised Zone of the Enders 3, which seems ever more unlikely given Hideo Kojima's uncomfortable relationship with Konami these days, but this one, at least, should tide things over a bit. Zone of the Enders, the second runner Mars, is scheduled for release in 2018. For more information on any of these stories or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
When I was at school in North London, all I had ever wanted to do was work in television. And my careers advisor, probably actually quite rightly, so I don't really blame her for it, she said, Janet, look, you're going to have to face it. You're not smart enough. They only take Oxford or Cambridge. So if you want to get into the BBC, back in the day, as a producer, Oxford or Cambridge, that was essentially it. So should you be much better suited to go and be a teacher? So I went, all right. So off I went.
Wrong with teachers.
I loved it. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I did 4 years of that, got a really good teaching degree, and then just felt all I've really done is go to school and then go to university. And before I go back to school, I had a job all lined up to begin my teaching career. I should go and see the world. So put on the backpack, headed over to Australia, did the whole, tour around, cleaned windows, all of that kind of stuff, earned a bit of money wherever I could. Ended up back in Sydney with a few weeks until I was heading back through Southeast Asia and back to England. And there was a little ad in the job centre, as they were called back then, education department of a television network looking for some filing help.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, well, I'm a teacher. Yeah. I actually did my whole dissertation and everything on educational television. Okay. And I thought, right, this is my chance. I'm going to go in there and knock on their door. Yeah, it was like a 4-week contract, and I'm still there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, yeah, so how long ago did you start? You started roughly around 1988, is that correct?
Yeah, so I first joined the ABC in August 1988. So it'll be 30 years next year.
Yeah, and in that time, you've had a number of roles, usually around the producing role, though. So, in 2004, you ended up becoming senior producer, and then 2008, series producer, and then 2013, executive producer, and a significant part of that was because of Good Game. Yeah, so, I mean, I was obviously there from the very beginning of Good Game. So while I was making this news and current affairs show for ABC2 that I was the series producer of, I was asked if I had any other ideas. So sort of running alongside this great passion of mine for television and radio and broadcasting in general has been my deep and abiding love affair of video games. And so they asked me, have I got any other ideas, for any other shows? So of course, all this time, I had been much like probably the rest of Australians at the time, mainstream media pretty much ignored
us gamers. The dedicated press was fantastic, but mainstream media, it was either sort of sensational, Columbine shooting-y kind of stories, or, oh, you know, the new PlayStation's come out and, oh, shock horror, there's a queue of people wanting one.
That's right.
You know, whereas us as gamers, I could feel it. There was this amazing community. And for me, you know, video games are an art form, and some of the smartest and brainiest people alive today, the most creative people, work in video games, and they're visual. Like, to be a television show, this is a marriage made in heaven. And so I went to the ABC and I said, well, you know, they had a music program at the time, they had a movie review show. I said, you know, video games, we should have a video game show.
Absolutely.
And, you know, yes, we want to have a bit of reviews, but being, you know, especially coming through all of my news and current affairs stuff, I always wanted to have some analysis of what it meant to be a gamer. What was the history of games? What's the business of games? What are the big movements that are going to come through gaming? And so, you know, to give it that kind of, I guess, sort of ABC edge in a way. And they went, yeah, all right, you know, here's a couple of bucks, go and make us a pilot.
Oh, fair enough. So
we did.
Yeah, it's great because video games is frankly a combination of all the arts, isn't it? I mean, you got music, you got visual, you got I had a whole bunch of others. You got film and all those kinds of things as well. I mean, there's all sorts of different things.
Narrative, character development, educational. And then on top of that, which is what I think, well, there's the big thing that separates video games, I think, from the other media, with possibly exception of music, is the interactivity. You know, the fact that you have agency as a player. You are the one, you know, driving your character, shooting that gun, scoring that goal, playing with that team, you know, plotting your strategy, chatting. Even if, you know, World of Warcraft spent the whole time, a lot of the time, sitting on a roof chatting with my friends. You know? Great, that's still playing, right? So I think there's that. And the other great, fascinating thing for me, anyway, is technology. And the great advances that have come in technology and how video games and the creators of video games are absolutely at the cutting edge of that. And so, you know, you can see, if you look at the history of video games and the sort of history of, you know, technology and larger memory sizes and faster processing and all of that, you can see how that has directly impacted on the creativity.
They complement each other.
They do. But there are other mediums that do that. You can argue that for movies, and you can certainly argue that for music. But I think video games are like the perfect example of it. And, you know, the 10 years that we were making good games, just when you think of the advances that we saw in that time, you know, and it was just brilliant to be able to talk about it on national television.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's actually like 3 strands to Hybrid World. So there's a conference which has got some amazing speakers in it, sort of really looking at the amazing innovation in industry and science and biology and fertility. Oh, that's really good. So that goes for a day. Then there's like an incubator lab strand, which companies have applied for, and then they'll get mentored. And then there's my bit, which is the public program, which is, you know, it's free to come out to. Cosplayers are more than welcome.
Our future. Robots, gamers, zombies.
So I felt, you know, like with this festival, I want to create or at least offer the opportunity for particularly young Australians, but any Australians of any age, to come and get their hands on with stuff. And to do that, it has to be, you know, low cost, low threat. You know, it's about coming, having fun, getting your hands on, meeting really great educators who can open the door to you, and hopefully, you know, if 20 kids come away from Hybrid World going, wow, I know what I want to do now. You know, I know I want to be a games programmer. I know I want to make music using Ableton. I know I want to be a Twitch streamer. I know I want to be a professional gamer. You know, all of these are actually real life jobs that are there now that weren't there when I was growing up. And I'd love to get kids there to have a go at the foundations of all this stuff.
Fantastic. Well, one of the things that really piqued my interest was that you've got a League of Legends tournament going on for schools.
Yes.
So how does that come up? I mean, schools should be, again, being a teacher, like a few years ago when League of Legends was really starting to become really popular at my school, like I would come in on mornings to teach classes and I would see so many of my year 10 students like absolutely tired from being up till 4 a.m, drinking so much energy drinks and playing a whole bunch of LOL. Like, and here we are, like putting together a tournament for a lot of these kids. Like, so what's the balance there between approaching schools and saying, hey, we've got a tournament here.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking for young people to do this and almost encouraging them to do that, you know, within reason.
Yeah. Well, I have to say I'm really, really proud of the League of Legends activity that we've got coming at Hybrid World. And there's really like multiple components to it. So the first port of call was Riot themselves, right, who developed League of Legends. It is the most popular game online, and they have a very young player base. You know, I mean, it's 13 up, but they have a lot of kids in that high school age zone that are playing League of Legends. Plus, it's a kind of game where really solid life skills can come out of playing that game at a good level, right? You know, it's a hard game. It's easy to start playing, but it's so difficult to master, and there's so many different skill sets in there and collaboration and all of this stuff. Plus, they had, you know, the whole esports thing happening. So I had obviously had lots of meetings with them over the years with Good Game. And they told me about their high school initiative where they were tackling head-on, you know, unsociable behaviour with a program about responsible behaviour online, you know,
which is much needed.
Which is much needed, exactly. But they hadn't, and they've developed all of the tools, but they hadn't sort of got a lot of headway into the schools. I'm over in Adelaide talking about Hybrid World with the Department of Education here in South Australia, and they're like, oh, that sounds really cool. So this is like, I mean, how innovative are they, really? This Department of Education. So, you know, there's Riot, there's Department of Education, and then there's Hybrid World, all coming together with this kind of shared mission of using League of Legends to actually promote, you know, good skills, skills that, you know, exist in the game and that people can take outside of the game, all in a great, fun and brilliant game like League of Legends.
It's coming to Adelaide. It's the first time it's the inaugural one in Adelaide. Is it going to be extending to somewhere else, possibly next year, or is it just going to keep returning to Adelaide?
Well, fingers crossed it returns to Adelaide. I mean, this is a new concept. It's a new idea. You know, to marry music, video games, drone flying, coding, you know, a conference, you know, all in this one space. It's pretty ambitious. So fingers crossed the people of Adelaide come, and if it's a big success, please come, then I'm sure we'll be back for another year.
Excellent.
Oh, I forgot the zombies, to mention zombies.
Oh, no, you haven't. What's going on with that?
Have you heard of Z-Town?
No, I haven't heard of Z-Town.
Okay, so Z-Town is like a 4 to 5 hour long real life zombie apocalypse.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
Okay.
So you turn up, you got your Nerf gun. Yep. Everyone starts out as human. There's a storyline. Okay. So our storyline is about kind of a mad professor who lives below the city. Yep. It's all going to be played out at Adelaide University. Then the Contagion gets released and there's a couple of zombies. And then it goes off. Like, it's just the best fun ever. And then you all run around with your Nerf guns. There's strict rules about, you know, if you shoot the zombie, it has to drop and run away. Yep. And then over time, you have this app so you can tell how many of you are human. And as the game plays on, it's like, oh, more and more zombies. But if you get turned into a zombie, it's almost more fun because you go off to the makeup tent and get all zombie-fied. Yeah, and then you're out, you know, trying to catch the other humans. And then at the very end of the game, at the kind of pickup zone, maybe... Depends, and I reckon the Adelaide players are going to be quite good, so we might get 5 to 10, but out of the hundreds that start playing, there's only like 5 to 10 humans left who win the game. Okay, but yeah, interesting. It's great. So we're bringing that over for the first time ever. So yeah, I really hope people come along and play.
On Saturday, the 7th of October, the University of Adelaide's North Terrace campus will be transformed into a divided city where human survivors take up dart blasters and battle against infected zombies. It's Colour Run meets Call of Duty, it's a lot of fun, it's Z-Town, the divided city, and it's part of Hybrid World Adelaide. Everyone starts as a survivor and each player works with their squad to make it to the final stand. When you're tagged by a zombie, you become one too, and there's only one thing you want: brains. Hold out for as long as you can using ingenuity, clever tactics and clues via Z-Town's app in a desperate bid to stay human and escape Hybrid World Adelaide's Z-Town, the divided city. Grab your friends and face the apocalypse together, and if you need an incentive, Player Attack has 5 double passes to give away. All you need to do is head to playerattack.com, follow the link to the Z-Town competition, and tell us your favourite zombie film, game or book in 20 words or less. The lucky winners will be announced on playerattack.com, but act fast, you only have until October 5 to get your details to us.
Looks like this kid was teasing a dog.
This kid choked on berries.
Looks like someone was doing somersaults down that slide.
I guess that's just how some kids roll.
Any witnesses?
Do you want to run us through what happened here?
Ever wondered what it would be like to be the host of a kid's birthday party? Or take a group of young'uns for a trip to the beach? But then have you also been filled with that crippling fear of having a child get hit by a car, or ravaged by seagulls, or crushed under a pile of cans? Well, then Think of the Children has you covered. Think of the Children as a cooperative parenting simulator, or at least that's how it's being pitched. The game has you frantically try to manage hyperactive children who are doing everything possible to put themselves in immediate danger no matter what you do. It's the kind of chaotic multiplayer experience that 2016 sleeper hit Overcooked prides itself on, except I really struggled to have any fun with Think of the Children. Granted, Think of the Children is only currently in beta, and in that beta only 3 levels are currently playable: a backyard birthday party, a beach trip, and a supermarket. The first 2 challenges you to last through a timer with as many kids alive as possible, with extra points for completing objectives like setting some tables or protecting Grandpa from severe sunburn, cause an old man isn't capable of looking after himself. I totally get that the game's pitch is novel. Try to be the best parent with as few dead kids as possible. But it's the nonchalant way the game will casually have kids be abducted off the yard, or drowned in a pool, or killed by a jellyfish that really irks me. The gameplay is so tedious because no matter what you try to do, you never have control of the situation, which is made worse if you try to play the game solo. I enjoy inappropriate and even borderline offensive humour as much as the next person, but with this game just being chaotic for the sake of it doesn't really make it an enjoyable experience. I found myself just getting frustrated at how much you have to do at any one time, and all of it pretty much being for nothing. Save that one kid from eating the poisonous berries? Okay, but there are about 2 more just literally about to do the same thing, while another kid at the sandpit is about to be taken by a dog. All while the barbecue is on fire and one kid just died on the swing set. The direct comparison I have to make here of an example of a chaotic cooperative multiplayer game is the aforementioned Overcooked, which knew how to pace its challenges really well. It also had strategic elements in each level, where each player could assign themselves different roles to make food orders efficiently. And Think of the Children, all of that gets thrown out the window in a total ADD rush. It also doesn't really give much respect to its subject matter: children. The children you're trying to save pretty much become the enemy, and after so many attempts at trying to stop Ava from eating food off the shelf of a store, she'll immediately beeline straight for the freezer and trap herself in. You, Ava. And with these kids doing their best at killing themselves, there's no way to really keep any of them safe, which makes the objectives practically meaningless, ultimately undermining the gameplay in general. Whereas in Overcooked, your objectives are always achievable, and with some skill you can overcome unlucky gameplay hurdles like moving kitchen trucks or mobile haunted kitchen stations. The game actively works against you, but you know what you need to do to best it. In Think of the Children, you're forced to accept the fact that no matter what you do, you're likely to finish the level with at least a couple of dead kids. And it's a shame because on the surface the game actually looks really good and plays really smoothly. I didn't come across any significant bugs or glitches, which is pretty good for a beta. But most of its problems come from its pointless objectives in Demon Children. I get that Think of the Children is trying to be edgy and tap into that South Park brand of child violence humour, but with no real message or sense of achievement, the whole idea of the game falls over itself. What I would like to see in the game is some sort of grace period where a kid you're handling will at least behave themselves for even a little bit. Like in the birthday party level, you could perhaps plump a couple of them down at one of the tables you've just set, actually putting the tables to some use. Or perhaps using your shout ability to have kids nearby follow you for 10 seconds so you have at least a moment to get a hold of the situation and complete objectives. I can see Think of the Children being one of those novelty party games that people will gather around, laugh and comment on how messed up it is, then play it for 5 minutes and move along. Hopefully the full version will have some different hooks and have stronger legs to stand on, but judging by what's available in this beta, it's hard to think much of Think of the Children.
It sounds like natural causes to me.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, we're welcoming the Last Man Standing controversy as we spend some time with both PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and the new Battle Royale gameplay mode for Fortnite. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Also, if you want to support Player Attack, you can find us on Patreon and help us bring you the latest in gaming news, plus all these wonderful interviews and reviews from the world of video games. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.